So how was growing up? Like, what was your family life like? Like, you guys play games or, I don't know, just interview each other? I don't know. Like,
there were different studios throughout the house.
Me and my buddy, we making all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy.
All right, guys, welcome back to Table One Podcast. Justin Young, awesome co-host Art Parman, and very special guest Jeff Platt of Jeff Platt fame and fortune.
Yeah, I think we should go with that. I was wondering what you would say. Jeff Platt fame and fortune.
I mean, I
definitely has to be top level, right?
So just a quick introduction for those who don't know. Obviously, he is a co-host and host of Poker Go, World Series of Poker, No Gamble, No Future, like just across the board. But we're gonna find out a little bit about Baby Jeff, Tiny Jeff.
Yeah, Baby Jeff, Tiny Jeff, both.
Jeff, before Jeff Platt, it was Jeff Splat. He was just a
Yeah.
little baby
Just
embryo. And now he had to find his way into gambling at some point.
But yeah, I always look up people's Wikipedia, hidden mom, card player. And
Wikipedia page, don't mean to brag. Yes,
yeah,
go
like,
ahead.
by the way, yeah, that's super impressive. Like, I feel, I don't know, if Justin was like 10 years ago,
Yeah.
I would have started my own Wikipedia page because that's how much ego I had then. Maybe 15 years ago. But like, yeah, I think it's cool as shit you have a Wikipedia page.
I think it's very cool. I just want to let the record show that I did not create my own. I did not try to start it, but I'm sure that Tim Duckworth with Poker Go definitely did. I don't think the Wikipedia requests for me were rolling in and they couldn't handle everything.
Well, have you read it?
Page. Yes, I have read it.
Yeah, of course you have.
I haven't seen it. I check every day or two for the latest updates.
Does Tim Duckworth have one?
No, I don't think so. No. I don't think the commish has one.
This is him
I'm
finding
being
out
selfish.
about not having a Wikipedia.
But anyway, I got to find out some things I did know and didn't know about you or whatever. Things I did know. I knew you were from Texas, just outside of Dallas. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I
okay.
grew up in Plano, north of Dallas. That was good.
So-
Yeah, don't mix up the Texas cities.
Yeah, no, like, that's not a cool thing. I know that much. So how was growing up? Like, what was your family life like? Like, you guys play games or, I don't know, just interview each other? I don't know. Like,
There were different studios throughout the house. No, there was nothing that surrounded card games, gambling in any sense. I would say, like almost every kid, I was pretty sports focused. That's where I started to think about, like, when I'm like 6, 7, 8 years old, I realized I sucked at athletics, right? Like, I just had no hope. I was drawing
Just knew
stone
right away.
dead. Every kid has the dream of being in the NBA, whatever. I knew that dream was dead. But maybe I could just find another path into the sports world. And so I got really into it from a fan's perspective. I became a diehard fan. Baseball, basketball, football, a little bit of hockey, and just loved following the sports and going to games. So I guess that's what, like, my childhood upbringing kind of revolved around. in
Did
the early
your
years.
did your family have like a team or a alma mater that they rooted for?
My
Because-
family was really into the Dallas Mavericks. And this was like early 90s where the Mavs just had the worst teams
bad.
really in NBA history. I mean, I think 11 wins and then 13 wins a season. Then they'd pick up Jason Kidd, and they had Jason Kidd and Jim Jackson and Jamal Mashburn, and it was like the 3Js era. And so we started going to games when they were super cheap, or probably $5 a ticket to go to at good old Reunion Arena. And we kind of watched the Mavs develop into what eventually would become a championship team. But it was a cool activity for the family to have everything revolve around. Like, there was always that Mavs game to go to as a group to look forward to.
That's cool. Yeah, we had nothing like that for me. My family, we had no interest in sports. My dad was like, football.
Football, there's
I hate violence.
Art's dad was a clown/dog trainer. So
That is true. That is true. But he did train dogs to bite people, so the violence.
There's a
thing,
little
I don't-
violence.
Yeah,
There's a little violence in
and that's a
that.
sport too. You can watch it. I think it's called Schutzhund, and they got the people. They're holding the thing out, and they find them
real?
and bite the shit out of them. Oh yeah, it's real. There's competitions and everything. Yeah, I would go to those. But I've been to more of those than I have been football games. Promise you that.
Sounds fun.
I've been bitten before too in a whole bodysuit. You wear like a whole thing.
Oh, I've seen that on like Jackass and
And you
shit.
just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. Well, this wasn't Jackass. This was just because my dad told me to.
This is in your backyard. It's like, where are the cameras, Dad? This is for me. You shouldn't have snuck out last night.
All right, real quick. Do you have crypto just sitting in a crypto wallet doing nothing? Then you've probably never heard of Gauntlet. Gauntlet.xyz is a billion-dollar research company that manages risk for huge internet platforms like Uniswap, Arbitrum, Jupiter, and a ton of other ones. And how can they help you? They actually curate these things called crypto vaults. And what's a crypto vault? Well, you just put your crypto in, you get an interest rate. The interest rate depends on the supply and demand of that particular token that you put into there. It's kind of complicated, but their algorithms make it like 1,000 poker solvers are working on your side. And you get a return on crypto that was just sitting in your wallet anyway. Here, let me show you how it works. I've got 800 USDC here. I'm gonna put it into this USDC vault. The current interest APY is a little over 9%. So I'm gonna get that for a little bit and I can take it out whenever I want. Now, as you can see, they have a bunch of different vaults, a bunch of different tokens. Do your own research on all of this, which one appeals to you, but definitely don't let your crypto just sit in your wallet doing nothing. It could be here earning for you. So if you've got USDC or USDT, which if you're a poker player, you probably do, you're gonna wanna have it sitting in one of these vaults earning something for you. So head on over to gauntlet.xyz/T1 and it'll take you right to the vault page. You'll be able to check out which one looks good to you. All right, back to the show.
All right, so like when I was a kid, like I kind of met the same crux where I wanted to be a sports guy.
Yeah.
And like it was probably 11 or 12 when I realized I couldn't cut it.
Yeah.
So I dove super hard into sports medicine because like my dad told me is like, well, you can get a Super Bowl ring if you're on the staff, and all you have to do is be like the head trainer there. I was like, that's what I want to do.
Route, yeah.
So that's not what you did though. You diverted somewhere else.
Yeah, so at first I thought that the best path for me, kind of like you, was to work in sports somehow. And so I tried to really get invested in the off seasons, the free agency, the trade. My dream was like, I could be an NBA general manager one day.
Wow.
Now, which I think is interesting, like if we were to grow up nowadays, there'd probably be an easier line of research to start to pursue that path. Like back in the, late 90s, very early 2000s, you didn't have much research, not much understanding of like a salary cap and the complex nature that surrounded all contracts, right? But I went to Indiana my freshman year of college to study sport management because that, at the time, I thought was the best path to get into working for an NBA team, which was like my dream. So it was like, you had two sides of it, either represent the player and try to go the sports agent path or go the team route and perhaps work in the front office and work your way up from there.
That's it. So, like when you told your guidance counselor this is your dream,
Yeah.
how hard did she laugh?
Well, I think she was just, she'd probably never heard it before. Like she's like, you probably heard the pipe dreams before, but never had it been the, I want to be an NBA general manager. And she's probably go, what's that? I have no idea.
I want to be a cowboy astronaut.
Yeah. She's like, she's like, how many of those exist in the world? I'm like, a good 30 or so. Yeah, really. And 27 of them are former NBA players. So it's a tough path to get there. But the research that I was able to do, Indiana at least had a good sports management program. They at least had some classes that would teach you about the inner workings of professional sports and the different leagues. And so you start to kind of see a path, maybe sort of you could find a way. Most of that way was just via marketing, advertising, ticket sales. Very hard to get into basketball.
Well, do you think most of the people that graduated from sports management just became like PE teachers, or how
It's a great question. It's a great question. I don't know. But I would say that most either worked in sports marketing, not necessarily sports management, or they worked on the player's side, like just as the pure business model of working for a player and getting the player as much money as possible, that sports agent route, which makes a lot of sense, and that's part of the sports management program in Indiana.
Pretty sexy side of it as well, but
of course,
it does feel a little slimier when you kind of when you're a fan and you see
it's very, and then it's very financially driven for you to get there.
Kind of lose the love of the game type stuff.
And so along those lines, I think I saw that there was no real path. Like maybe you could find a way, you'd have to get really, really lucky. So then I started to shift my focus more towards broadcasting, which is something I'd always been interested in also. And then transferred from Indiana to USC, pursued broadcast journalism there, and tried to go that route versus working for a
So
team.
USC is a very well-known school when it comes to this kind of stuff. Like, was
Yeah.
it easy to like just transfer over? I mean, that seems like it'd be incredibly hard.
It's kind of like I got really lucky going to Indiana first, because had I had the resume coming out of high school, I would not have gotten into USC. I would have been pretty dead at getting in there. At Indiana, I mean, I took some really easy classes. Fortunately, it was very easy for me. That was like the 1 year I really studied and got good grades, so my resume became much better as far as transfer students were concerned. So it was a pretty open door to get into USC or Syracuse, which is also
those good
pretty
one,
well
yeah,
known, as
that's
you
really
guys
good,
know.
yeah.
There's a ton of great sports broadcasters from there. So I stepped off the plane at USC. I stepped off the plane at Syracuse. It was a pretty easy decision when it's snowing and 12 degrees in Syracuse versus beach weather.
They both want
in
me.
Los Angeles.
One place sun. One place I have to hide for 6 months.
Right. So it's pretty
Sideline
easy.
reporters have a little bit easier at USC.
Yeah.
I don't want to be reporting on snowboarding.
No.
Even though the Carrier
no,
Dome, it's Carrier Dome, right? It's indoors at least.
Yeah,
but
Carrier
it's,
Dome is indoors. So, which would have been great. I mean, Syracuse has developed.
You could have
a ton
seen
of talent.
Donovan McNabb would have been there.
Yeah,
Dwight Freeney, I
McNabb.
think.
Yeah, and then some of their awesome basketball teams,
Yeah.
of course.
Man, all right.
Well, you're still young. There's still time. You might still
I
end
think
up there.
I think I'm good. I'm probably not going to make it to Syracuse too often.
Speaking of which, how old are you? I mean, I think I know, but
38.
Okay, so I just want to get some clarification. That's
Yeah.
about Art's age, is that right?
That is about my age.
Okay,
I'm 37.
all right.
I'll be
And
38 in
I'm
December.
old as shit. Okay.
Way
Yeah.
older than we are.
You're gonna put me
Yeah.
on the pasture soon.
You're off the odometer.
All right, so you get to USC, and it's just headlong into like broadcasting, like no regrets, no nothing. It was just like
Pretty much, I was pretty
That's
passionate
great.
about it right away, and then I think there you just learn how to become a better broadcaster, right? It's obvious in that broadcast journalism program, like they teach you how to write better, they teach you how to enhance your on-camera presentation, your voice, your tone, your cadence. So I really do feel like I learned a lot at USC that I still look back at today that I think really helps me a lot. So it was a really valuable 3 years there, and like I got to interview Pete Carroll. This was like the heyday of USC
yeah.
football.
Pete Carroll,
era.
yeah.
And so
oh yeah.
I got to Pete Carroll.
Reggie Bush one time.
Right.
You
Reggie
gotta-
Bush. Yeah.
You get
yeah.
to interview Reggie Bush?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here.
Pete Carroll would do 2 one-on-one exclusive interviews a week. One was with the ABC affiliate, and one, so it's his idea, was to do with the student TV news program, because he thought that would be a good opportunity for students. So we were the only two, except of course, ESPN comes to town. Obviously, they get Pete Carroll for an interview. So once a season, I was the one. We kind of had a rotation to interview Pete Carroll, and so like it's just such a great experience. You're talking to those guys who are at the basically the top of the college football world that everybody wants to talk to, not just people in a broadcast journalism program.
That was the it school for a few years.
Yeah, so it's like the experience, you just started to gain it right away.
Can
It's just
you
like right off
can
the
you
bat.
find that interview on YouTube, or do you have
God, I
it?
think it's gone because I remember looking for it.
He looks that
a
up
while
every other
ago.
day when he's on the Wikipedia page. Yeah,
I keep YouTube searching myself, and I just haven't seen the Pete Carroll one pop up lately.
Trying to drive up the trends. Jeff Platt.
But it was on my first, resume reel of sorts, what you call it, which you send out to different stations across the country, and it probably didn't hurt to have a one-on-one with Pete Carroll.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you get introduced to that. So that is incredibly cool, and I would love to just keep on going down this road, but unfortunately, this is not that kind of podcast. I should start my own when it comes to like sports nerdom. But at some point, and like I kind of saw like you started playing poker around this time, or no?
Yeah, it's
Like,
probably a couple years earlier. It's that very typical story that you guys have heard a billion times before. I'm a junior in high school when ESPN starts airing the 2003 World Series of Poker.
Yeah. The moneymaker, you didn't care about the Varconi one? He's
Didn't watch
just
much of
breezed
the
right through that
Marconi.
one.
That was Justin's
Just
poker
me,
boom,
I
by
guess.
the way.
Yeah.
That's what sent him to
Well,
Las Vegas.
I know. I remember talking with you, I guess last year, about the 2004 World Series, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
had the like badge that.
Man, that was.
That got you
let's not
entered
think
into
about
that
that one. But
thing?
yeah, that
Oh,
was
God.
one of the special times. But yeah, I still have that badge.
That's so good. So
well, you got to explain it now. I mean, what are you talking
Okay,
about?
well,
That's fair.
in
That's
2004, the first tournament I ever played, I won a tournament. I chopped a tournament. Excuse me. I had a 2-1 chip lead, And Jack McClellan comes over and he's like, would you like to chop? And I was like, what is a chop? And he's like, well, this is where you can just like end the tournament right now and you guys can decide how much money each person gets. I was like, let's do that. Because like in those times, I mean, I'm sure it hasn't changed too much, but like first place was like maybe like 55, 60,000 and second place was like 30. Like it was like almost in half.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I have a 2-to-chip blade. Can we just split it in half? And Jack's like, do you want to do that? I was like, yes, please. And the other guy's like, are you serious? I was like, yes, please. And like, I ended up getting 45,000. I was like, this is amazing. And I was like, look, I'm an engineer. I know I'm going to be an engineer the rest of my life. No big deal. All I want to do with this money is play the main event one time. So I literally set aside 10,000.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm going to go. So I went in. The horseshoe, the old, like,
it was
it was. I stayed at El Cortez, which was the longest, scariest walk with $10,000 in my pocket I've ever had in my life. It was like abandoned like yards with like tires everywhere and like people generally you don't want to see. Either way, I ended up sitting down and I'll fast forward a little bit. Norm Macdonald was at my table. Fantastic, like big fan. But either way, very first hand, I get in a pot where I have ace jack and the board runs out something silly like ace, jack, jack, 9x or whatever. And the guy like check raises me at a point. I was too scared to like go all in. And like this is where like you start with like 10,000 chips.
Right.
And like I just called on the river and he had like a bottom full house or whatever. And no part of my mind was like, oh my God, I could have got more. All I was thinking like, oh, thank God he didn't have aces. Oh my God, he didn't have aces. This is great. I have 15,000 instead of 10,000 now. This is great.
Very different style from the Justin Young nowadays.
So either way, I ended up blowing the tournament when like, you do the classic like limpery raise with kings and did it against queens.
Nice.
And it didn't work out for me. That's fine though, yeah. And then I numbly walked back to my El Cortez room.
And was not to ask you guys the questions, I know it's your podcast, but was that day one, I remember the ESPN coverage making it look like it was an absolute madhouse.
Dude.
Like 11-handed, out you playing outside. Was it kind of crazy?
It was. Like I remember walking in, they had tables set up outside. And I was like, I hope I don't draw that table. But like even like it was the upstairs of the horseshoe. I don't know if you ever were there that tournament time.
It before, yeah.
But like the ceilings, like I'm not a tall person, and like I felt like they were right here. They were like 8 foot ceilings and stuff like that. And it was like almost like your like elementary like schoolroom like ceilings like that textured.
Cafeteria,
but like I'm just in awe the entire time. At no point was like, oh, this is a dump or this is shit.
Oh, right. It's
like the whole time, like this is the World Series main event.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's fucking just pointing people out. Like I think Moneymaker was at the final table of like an 08 tournament or something like that.
Oh, cool.
Like that, I'm just like, oh my God, Chris Moneymaker, he's the best. Like, oh my God. And I'm just losing my shit over everything. And then like obviously with Norm Macdonald on my table, like I couldn't pig and slop.
Did the camera crews come by?
One time, like he was 2 to my left, so I never got in there.
Yeah.
But they came by once or twice or whatever, and I think he said something very like witty, and then they ran away.
Of course, that's what he does.
But yeah, I mean, whatever. Like super old guys. I apologize for my oldness, but like that was my geeky moment. Or one of my geeky moments when it comes to like poker
that's a
or
good
whatever.
geeky moment.
And you had the badge. That was the whole thing. Drawing the thing.
Sorry. Like, like
what's the badge?
I liked it so much. Like I kept because everyone like had to wear a little like necklace like badge or whatever to show you belonged or whatever. And I've kept it. That's the only one I've ever kept. The only ticket I've ever kept. And I think last year was my 20th year playing the main event. And I showed that as my kind of like moniker of like like relaying the moment or whatever.
Yeah, I remember seeing that tweet. I was like, oh.
Yeah, 20 years. You know how many times I've cashed in 20 years?
How many?
Twice.
Nice. That's a
you know
good.
How many fun?
Yeah, that's a good run.
2 min cashes.
Just
right in the pocket.
Yeah. All right. Well, you're due for a hell of a run.
There you go. That's it. As long as you don't talk to me, dude. Just on break, I just won a huge pot, like 100 big blind pot. I think I'm chip leader. I'm not sure.
There's only 18 left, right?
Yeah, like maybe 17. I don't even know.
Uh-oh. He's coming! Run!
Oh, no, you don't. Get over here. Hey. Hey. So, chip leader, huh? Chip leader, huh?
I am the chip leader. I won a pot.
Best of luck rest of the way.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's old news. That was last year's, man.
Yeah.
Good luck now.
All right. So, way off me. I want to get back to Jeff. I appreciate the question, but yeah.
I was just curious. I tend to ask the questions, as you might imagine.
So the 2003 World Series, which was the blow up year, it was the moneymaker
Yeah.
year. It was the first year like ESPN actually took some time to like follow through day 1, day 2, day 3, and like showed the viewership, like kind of the grind of it, which I loved as well. But like, so that attracted you as well?
Yeah, I think it was really because my friends started watching it, and I was just trying to be cool and hang out with my friends and watch some poker. And then we would, of course, start to play poker, and try to replicate that feeling. And we all just kind of got into the game, 5 or 6 of us, at the exact same time, which I think helped a lot. And to your point, I really liked seeing the story being told of the entire tournament, which I think in some ways led to where I'm at today and how I enjoy the main so much because of the stories that are told throughout. And they did a good job, I think, just right off the bat when they dove in, when they decided to cover it from the beginning. And that was just something that fascinated me, the different characters and the beauty of the game and how easy it was to at least learn how to play. Right? Like we could all sit down after watching an episode and we knew the rules. We knew everything that there was to know. So yeah, I was pretty captivated by it all, I would say, in that first year, in that first run.
Yeah, I will give a big shout out to Norman Chad and Lon McCarron during that time, because like it's changed so much, and like we'll get into this later, but like they really like gave like a teaspoon at a time dose to like the public, which is all we could really handle in all honesty at the time, which is way different than the way it is now. But like it was very palatable, and like it made a lot of like people that had no understanding like enjoy it, because like it was more about the people. It was less about the actual like playing.
It's like they knew how to open up poker to mainstream viewers, right?
Yeah, they weren't even showing the percentages, I don't think, back
No,
then. They were
I
just
don't
like,
think
this
so
hand,
either.
this
Yeah,
hand,
here's
the
what
board.
wins and why.
Yeah.
Right? And Lon would describe it, and Norman would be funny, but still like describe just the very basics of it all. It was fantastic.
Just a quick break here. Have you ever checked out like the listing for Coachella or some other music festival, and you look at it and you're like, man, Kanye, I don't know a lot of bands, Eminem, how do they get all these people on here? Well, Phenom Poker has a list of pros: Joe Chong, Sergio Ido, Justin Young,
Chris Hunichin.
Brian Rass, Chris Hunichin,
Eric Baldwin. Yeah, it's a who's who.
It's a who's who of guys who just support this
Engel.
platform, and it hasn't even launched yet. And Table One is on that list. We support Phenom Poker. We think they're going to do good things. It's going to be the online poker site that you can trust. You can deposit with crypto. They're going to teach you how to do everything. And the best time to sign up is right now before they launch, because everybody who signs up to the waiting list is going to get extra tokens, extra rake back. It's really going to be in your best interest to sign up now. So just check in the description below. We're going to have a link right at the top that says Phenom Poker. Sign up through Table One, get on the waiting list, and sign up today.
Super simple. Name, email, and then you're on with us. All right, so like you graduate from USC what year? Like
In 2008.
you're fucking young. Okay.
Very young.
Yeah, it sounds good.
We're very
All
young.
right, so
Yeah, we are.
So what's the job offer? What's the like when you send all those reels? Like where are you
So
going?
you're sending reels to like just super small towns / cities, just trying to get a sports anchor reporter job. Like I remember getting an email back from a news director in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he was like, it's a no for us, but you made our top 5, and I was like pumped. So that kind of shows you like the job market there. I was just pumped to be at least top 5 in Baton Rouge. So I ended up getting
Out
a
of 4 applicants.
yeah, no. Well, that's the problem is I think there were a boatload of applicants for every. Most stations I would reach out and like, hey, I sent in my resume, blah blah. I mean, you'd send it by like I had VHS tapes, even though it's not like it was that long.
No,
ago.
we had Ali
DVDs.
Najad on a couple episodes
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
And he said he went on the poker cruise and he brought his VHS mixed
VHS,
like his
yeah,
tape
I
with
bet he
him.
did. I could
and then
totally
he
see that.
he gave it to Maury, and that's how he is
Yep,
where he is.
yep,
Just
that's unbelievable. And so I got lucky and got offered a job in Jackson, Mississippi, as the sports anchor reporter at their CBS affiliate.
Okay.
So it was covering some SEC football. It's like Mississippi State and Ole Miss were each 2.5-ish hours away, but mostly it was like high school football, high school basketball, and it was just a grind for a couple years, but it was a really good opportunity. It kind of allows you to get your mistakes out of the way. Not that I don't make mistakes now, I make a ton of them, but like the big picture mistake stuff you really need to work on. It's kind of like nice not to have a huge audience. And back in those days, like local news was still a pretty big deal, like especially within a community, a city like that. So I just think the reps that I was able to acquire there were pretty valuable. But then of course the job gets pretty boring.
Did you get some celebrity status inside Jackson?
Yeah, but very slight. But yeah, it's like the old school how the weatherman would always be the
I was
celebrity.
just saying, Skip Waters was mine growing up.
Okay, there,
And like I remember running into him at the gym one time, like,
oh my
that's
God.
fucking Skip Waters. Oh my God.
And
What
so
a name.
I would get a lot of like, hey, I know you. You're the weather guy on Fox. I'm like, no, but good enough. At least you somewhat.
It's like Justin.
recognize
He has
me.
people come up to him and say, "Oh, you got that podcast? I like it." And he's like, "Oh, what's your favorite episode?" They're like, "Yeah,
The one with the guy, the thing, and the person.
Yeah, with the poker player. Seems like a good show, though. Yeah, it's
So, excuse my geography failure. Is it near Tunica or Biloxi?
It is about 2.5 hours away from both. So I would say once every couple months, I would go play a poker tournament. In
Which place?
Tunica,
Which one's your favorite?
Favorite's a strong word. If I had to choose one, I think
fair.
I would choose Biloxi because Biloxi had, or I guess has, the Beau Rivage,
Right,
which
yeah.
is like a pretty nice.
It's a Bellagio
property. Yeah, they-
shrink wrap version,
they
but
say-
it does look nice.
And
yeah.
it is like a nice, decent property. So I would pick that one. And then in those days, like Poker Stars, I would play Poker Stars a decent amount.
What was your screen name?
It was, I think on Poker Stars, it was just what it is now, Mavs USC.
Okay.
Big
Oh,
Mavs
yeah,
fan,
yeah,
went to
yeah,
USC. I couldn't get any more creative than that. So I just kept that name for years. And so I would play online maybe once a week or so. So I stayed connected to poker, and then I would always watch the World Series of Poker coverage on ESPN, and not just the coverage of the main event, but all of the preliminary bracelet events as well. So I was still pretty hooked, pretty dialed into the game.
Did you do much
Jackson.
studying, or was it just
No, not at
kind
all.
of natural?
Was there even studying back then? What did you do? Did you like?
I mean, this is like 2003, 2002, but yeah, there was books out there.
There were
Like
books. I remember
Sklansky,
reading some
I did
books,
Super
yeah.
System, or read Sklansky's book.
Yeah.
And there was another one like how to beat like low limit hold'em, like how to beat like 3-6 limit
Okay.
hold'em or whatever, and like whatever. They all ruined my game, but they all made me play way too tight.
I read Helmuth play poker like the pros. I remember he's like, you should play 10 hands, like pocket eights are better.
Yeah.
And he would list the 10, and they're like, okay, cool, I'll just play those. It makes for a lot of fun. Imagine if you guys were restricted, you two especially, were restricted to eights or better. Wouldn't
You
even
evolved.
show up. Yeah.
That's why those people that read that book and adhered to it, they're either they got rich enough to like and bored enough of poker where they're just doing
Yeah, they're-
something else.
they're done with it, for
They're disciplined enough to actually be good at something else that's
Right.
productive for society.
Or they won 17 bracelets.
Yeah, or they throw mics at dealers sometimes and win 17 bracelets. Like one of the two.
Just missed. It's just off.
His aim's not the best. So, like, were you playing live tournaments as well? Like, was tournaments on your
was-
radar, or was it just like online and like every once in a while?
It was all tournaments. I never really gotten into cash. I did go to Vicksburg, Mississippi, which is like 40 minutes away. It's about like it sounds. And I played one seedy cash game, even though it was in a casino that seemed relatively legit and with some shady characters. I was like, I think I just will not play here anymore. I also had really no money. I mean, made $30K that year. Don't mean to brag, but in the local sports market, that was like peak money for your first job. So there wasn't a lot of disposable income to go blast off in poker
I
tournaments.
saw the ladies were buying you drinks at the bar.
Yeah.
I mean,
big celebrity status. Yeah. So I was a losing player. So it's not like I was making money on the side in addition to the job. I was just playing because I really enjoyed it.
I hope you don't take this wrong way, but I enjoy that you lost.
Yes.
Like we have too many guests on here that annoy me. They're like, no, I just won
Oh,
and then kept
yeah.
on winning, and then I just kept on winning. I'm
Well,
like,
all these
shut up.
guys, they like deposited $50,
Yeah.
never looked
Yeah.
back. Like, oh, that's cool. Must be nice.
Put in
Yeah.
your dues.
Right. Like you go busto a few
Yeah.
times, but yeah, some of these just literally one online deposit, or just played free rolls and built a bankroll.
did that too.
Screw that. Yeah, you got to grind.
So how long were you in Mississippi?
Mississippi for 3-ish years, then went out to LA to try to pursue some hosting gigs, worked as an associate producer for a startup company, and got a little bit more into poker with that LA card room scene, I guess
more
you would
available.
call
More
it.
people dusting.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So I would go to Hustler, Byte, Commerce, and instead of playing one tournament every couple months, I would start to play a tournament every 2 weeks, and then still play online leading up to Black Friday. So I kind of built the poker connection in LA, and then just took after that some various sports reporting, broadcasting jobs in Texas after that.
Okay,
Year-ish in
so
LA.
after you went to LA, you went back to Texas for a bit?
Yeah, I worked for ESPN Radio in Dallas,
Okay, I knew
where I got
that,
to
yeah.
cover the Mavs,
Which
was cool for me.
I mean, that's a childhood
Right,
dream.
right,
It has to
exactly.
be.
You'd probably take a pay cut just to do that.
Yeah, and I did. For
you did?
sure, yeah.
There you go.
I did not make that much money there.
So what years is this? Like, this is around 2011, 12?
Yeah, this would be like 2012 to 2014, 2015.
Okay, so
something
like
in
you
that
got
range.
to interview Dirk and...
Yeah, but by interview, it'd be like I was one of 20 reporters.
Oh, you're the
kinda
guy
around.
that
Yeah,
had,
I'm
like, a
holding
tape
the mic.
recorder
I
right
would get
here.
in a question here
Yeah.
and there, but it wasn't an exclusive
Still cool
interview.
shit.
But it was still awesome. Yeah.
Any
for
highlight
me.
questions that were like,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you got dunked on after you asked them, or they were
That's a
actually
good question. So the highlight that I will always look back at in sports broadcasting is a couple years later when I worked in San Antonio for a local TV station. They're covering the Spurs. And of course with that, you get Greg Popovich, the greatest NBA coach of all time, but very notorious for his treatment of reporters.
I like his answers. It's
Yeah. I love him, but it's
Belichickian, maybe?
like he will, if he doesn't like your question, you will know. Whereas most coaches will just give you a cliche answer, right? They'll spend 15 or 20 seconds, we tried hard tonight, next game, play on, blah, blah, blah. He won't do any of the cliche shit. He will just like give you his honest take, his honest thoughts on your question too. So this was my first month or so in San Antonio. First 3 games that I went to covering, I was like, I'm just going to stand there and listen, just kind of get a feel for it all, how it all breaks down. So I'm like, okay, I think I got it. I'm going to come up with a question, one question to pop. It's going to be good. We're going to make it happen. So the 4th game that I go to cover, I think about my question really for the entire game. And it was when the Spurs had Thiago Splitter on their team, Brazilian center.
Yep.
He had a great game. He had like 18 points in 20 minutes or something. So I was going to ask Pop, what made him so efficient on the offensive end, which I still to this day think is a decent question. Most of my questions to him were probably terrible. That's not bad. He had 18 points in 20 minutes. Like, what made him so efficient? I also think he likes to mess with new reporters, and I've learned that now. But so I'm standing there. I'm not going to ask the first question, of course. That's too much. No, too much in a Pop press conference. But they won the game by like 15. I'm thinking he's going to be in a good mood, so not bad. So I'm standing there. I'm holding this boom mic. I'm like shaking. I'm just so nervous at this point because I'm thinking about it really throughout the first 3 weeks on the job, like the first question that I'm going to ask Pop. And so I'm holding the mic. A couple questions go by. He was answering them relatively well. Again, seemed like he was in a good mood, 20-second answers or so. Then there's a pause. I jump in there. My voice is super shaky, but I get the question out. It's fine. Didn't stumble at all. And he just stares at me, just a dead Pop stare for maybe 5 seconds, which is a really long time if you think about it. In a room with 20 reporters, and he's just like stared just right at me. Like I couldn't escape it. I still remember it oh so vividly to this day. And finally, after 5 seconds, he says, I don't know how to answer that. And turns around and walks away, like boom, right after.
You ended
so like
the
I just
interview?
ended the whole
You
press
ruined
conference
everyone.
right after that. And that was my first experience with Pop. So that's what I will always point to for the highlight or low light question.
So
of
you've
my
Googled
career.
that moment plenty of times too?
I've tried to
every
find
third
that
day?
one. I
Yeah.
mean, that one I would actually watch back just to torture myself.
If anyone out there in YouTube
Yeah.
land can
Oh.
find it, put it in
If
the
you guys
comments.
have it, oh
we,
my
we
god,
will find it, and if we can find it, we'll put it every 10 seconds. Just like Pop staring back at you.
Oh, just the
Remember the
stare
question,
down.
just
I still have that in my mind of like him just staring right at me.
So did you feel like much of a traitor going from the Mavs to the Spurs?
It's a good question. It probably made the job easier because I wasn't rooting for the Spurs,
Yeah,
right? I mean, I would
clearly.
kind of root for them to go far because that was the most fun part of the job, was covering the Spurs and getting to cover playoff basketball.
Which is a great time to be a Spurs fan.
Absolutely. And then you got to travel around with the team.
Oh,
That's
cool.
what our station allowed, so they budgeted that for
awesome.
people to travel. So that was my hope, that their postseason would extend. So I was kind of rooting for them, but I didn't have that fandom behind it, so which I think made the job easier. But it was weird interviewing people like Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, Tim Duncan, guys I had to root against forever. And then they were pretty nice guys. So I was like, damn, this sucks. I was kind of hoping that they were pricks.
Well, the one guy did walk off on your question.
Yeah, the coach, yeah. I kind of respected him the most by the end because he was just so brutally honest, with you. I think that helped me a lot moving forward. Experience with
He
him.
was efficient because he got the ball near the basket and he just put it in the basket.
Right. I would
What do you
have
want
taken
from me?
that.
Like,
Yeah.
He's not that good from three.
Yeah,
He's
what-
not that
right.
good. His mid-range is shit.
He's a pretty terrible player.
He's
overall.
actually, like,
He
we made a
just-
mistake by drafting him.
Yeah,
What do you want from
He
me?
had one good night. Great.
He got a rebound and he put it back in. What do you want?
Yeah, great. I'm like, all right, Pop, whatever you say.
Sorry, I'm sure Splitter's one of our viewers, but like,
Yeah, no,
apologies.
I do respect Tiago. Yeah, Tiago's great.
All right. Well, at some point here, we get to poker again. You're playing sometimes in Texas too, or
Yeah, sometimes. I mean,
online is gone at this point.
online's gone, so I was playing a little bit online on the other sites. This was, I think, right when San Antonio, other rooms in Texas started to open. And so I'd play a little bit. I'd play a little bit of cash games, but I would always, every single summer, since I was in college, I would go out to the World Series at least once to take my shot in. It was a preliminary event for years. So I would play like one 1500 and then one Venetian 600, something like that. And this was every summer like clockwork. I would always go out during the summer. So I had kept a connection to poker through that. And then I would go most of the time to Choctaw when the World Series of Poker circuit was there. So I would still get in some poker. It was never studying or anything, but I would play, maybe 5 to 10 tournaments every year when I was in Texas, or really just any time since college.
And just to let our viewers know, in case they don't have the time or the inclination to like look you up or whatever, like, you have almost $1 million in like earnings, which is incredibly impressive for someone that plays, to your point, like 5 or 10 tournaments a year. Like that's really hard to do. Like
Now I play more, but yes,
right,
thank you. I'll take
but still,
it.
like no, like you have multiple 6-figure scores. Like I mean, it's an impressive thing. Not to be dedicating your life to poker.
Yeah, I
you know,
get what
like
you're
how,
saying.
how we
Yeah.
try to do, and we can't be as successful as you. But
It's hard enough to
Either way.
win, but then you actually have
make it look
another
super
job
easy.
on the side that you actually care about.
your side hustle's more successful than us.
I
That's
think
great.
I got pretty fortunate in 2014. I finished second in one of those dailies, which if you guys remember, they're still big today, but they were really huge, like back in that
Venetian or
2014.
the
Rio?
Rio, yeah,
So
yeah.
it'd just be like $200 at 1 p.m. and $50K up top. It'd
Right,
be just outrageous. I finished second in that, and then I'm like, okay, I think I can play the main. Like, but maybe we'll just go out and play some satellite. So I came back to Vegas. I was playing a satellite. A family friend saw my result, and he's like, stop playing satellites. Let me just put you into the main, and we'll do a 50-50 backing deal.
That's fucking
And I was
great.
like, okay, sweet. Sounds good to me. Yeah, I'm absolutely sold. And so we did that. I finished 203rd that year,
which is
which was crazy.
$44,000.
Yeah. That's good research at the bar down the street.
Thanks.
And then the next year, I finished 60th somehow,
Holy
which
shit.
sounds outrageous to
It's-
think about. Like,
That was your first 6-figure score, right? Or
yeah,
the-
yeah, that was my first 6-figure score. So that really sparked naturally. Like if you run deep in the main, you're going to
hell
be
yeah.
pretty hooked. So
If you like a drug, you're going to keep taking that drug.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's how
So
drugs work.
I've been pretty connected to the WSOP for a long time now, I would say.
Okay.
So did that have anything to do with you transitioning over towards poker coverage?
For sure, because I remember in 2014, very lucky seat draw because Maria Ho got moved to my table. And so once Maria moves, like, you have a decent chance at a feature table, right? This was when I think they started their coverage on day 4 or something to that effect. So we were at the feature table on day 4. So I got a little time on camera. I always give Dan, our executive producer, senior vice president, shit about this. Now they edited me out for the most part, but I got one awesome feature table hand double up in there where I like spiked a flush on the river, and I got to go over to the rail to sell it. I had one friend there watching, but I got to go over to him and celebrate, and I tried to like pick up some additional fans. Yeah, exactly. It was pretty much, and then my one friend was going nuts. He was going bananas. And the next year, Dan Gotti still produces the main. He came up to me on day one, and he just said, hey, I wanted to introduce myself, and Dan just wanted to wish you good luck. And then I ran deep in the main that year, and had some like secondary feature table coverage, not too much. And so since then, I would email Dan once every 6 months or so. Because I started thinking, like, if I really enjoy broadcasting and really enjoy poker, why don't we just merge these two passions together? So every 6 months I'd email Dan, hey, I'm kind of available, just checking in, seeing if you guys need me. And really every time he was like, we don't really have anything yet, but I really think we will soon. And that soon was eventually Poker Go. So he knew like that was kind of in the pipeline, that was coming. And in 2018, my contract was coming up in San Antonio. I figured I'd try Dan once again. And so I made something up about like, gonna be in Vegas, me and a couple guys on bachelor party. I really had no plans to go to Vegas. I just wanted to see what yourself. Yeah, it's just me. And he said, okay, he says, come meet me and Maury Escanati, the Poker Hall of Famer, president now of Poker Go. And we'll have you audition. And so I went to, they didn't even have the studio up. This was their backup room.
Is it the one by like the North Valet?
Yes, exactly. So I went there, I auditioned. The guy they brought in for me to audition with in the booth, Brent Hanks. So we called like 10 minutes of a Poker Masters final table. Fortunately for me, I thought that's what they were going to give me. He didn't give me any specifics about what the audition was going to be. And so I'm like, if I had to guess, it's going to be like one of their most premier recent tournaments. That'd be kind of easy for them to pull up. Cool. And so I'm like, I'm going to practice on this tournament. And so Dan's like, yeah, we're just going to give you the main event of the Poker Masters from this last year. I'm like, yes.
Watch it 20 times.
I know exactly what's happening.
So did you know Brent from a hole in the wall at this point?
I knew Brent. I was one of... there are probably 12 listeners to the Poker Central podcast back in the day. So I think it was Brent and Remco and Will O'Connor, and I would always listen every week. Yeah. And I also thought that they would bring Brent in to do the audition with me, and that was just my best guess, and both turned out to be right.
You're so smart.
So smart, yeah. I always get every prediction right. And so we got to audition together, and after that audition, I remember talking to Maury a little bit, and he's like, oh yeah, good job. And I had gone to lunch with Dan and Maury before, but we didn't really talk about me that much. We talked a little bit about poker. And then I left, and that was really it. I'm like, hey, that was great. And they're like, yeah, good job. And I'm like, okay, cool. Silence for months. And then
for months?
Yeah, for months. And then my contract's like really coming up. Like it's up in March, and I have to extend for another 2 years or do something else. And so it's like late February, early March, and I emailed Dan again. I'm like, well, my contract's coming up, He says, I think we might use you for the World Series.
That's a lot of confidence.
Well,
right there.
yeah.
All right, I'll just quit my job.
I'm like, well...
Have you heard of a fluffer before?
Yeah, I will do anything. So I figured, let's just go for it. And I went for it. I reached out to Sarah Herring at Poker News then. Yeah. That's who she was working for. And she instantly, we hit it off on a Zoom call. She instantly offered me a job. So that gave me some like comfort behind making the move. And she's like, I want you to co-host the Poker News podcast with me. And so right off the bat, I was at least secure knowing that I had at least a little something. And then came the 2018 World Series of Poker, and they threw me in the booth. That was when Poker Go was having 2 different streams. They would do like a Twitch stream in maybe the pavilion room at the Rio.
Yeah, that's
and then they had their main stage, Amazon. So I would call like day 2 of the $1,500 Omaha high-low. That was when I kind of got in the mix for Poker Go, and just I got fortunate from there. So I took your one question from 2015 and made it all the way up to 2018.
No, I mean, my favorite part of that was just the initiative to just be like, yeah, I'm going to be there. I've watched a lot of like podcasts with successful people, and they're just like, it's a lot of that. There's people that are just like, they shoot their shot. It's like, oh yeah, I do live in San Francisco actually, and I can meet you tomorrow. At what coffee shop? You have a 50% chance of being there. Yeah, I'm gonna be there, and you just like fly out to meet the person, and some random connection happens, and it's like making your own luck.
I had that exact mindset because like, what's the worst that happens here? He just is like, no, nothing's available. And I'm like, well, I'm in the same place as I was 2 minutes ago before I sent that email.
Burn a plane ticket and you have a little couple-day Vegas vacation.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. And we can rethink things later. So I've always been on the side of just absolutely going for it because why not?
Well, except for on the river when you're thinking about bluffing or not.
I don't go for it that often. I check back a lot. Yeah, I do check.
I know Jeff has won plenty of times.
Well, maybe future Jeff will be all in on the river now.
I punted off too. And then part of me thinks in those spots like, I can't play another tournament until September. So if I bluff it off and if he calls, I can't play again for a while. So I'll just check and lose.
I have a conversation with a good college buddy of mine that I back him like 25%. Like he has plenty of money, but like I do it, and like every or up till recently, every hand history, I'm like, so why did you check back the river? He was like, well, I didn't have the best hand. I was like, I re-ask, why did you check back the river?
It's hard to have the best hand.
He's like,
you gotta win the putt.
Yeah, to your point, he was just like, look, I get to play like 5 tournaments a year. What do you want me to do?
Right.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
sometimes you play it more
that's
conservatively.
fair. Do you want to win or do you want to milk cash?
Right.
The answer is, I wanted to stay in the tournament.
Which is fair.
Yeah, which is fair.
Which is why you're probably going to oversee me for live tournament winnings probably in like 2 years. I don't know. I mean, shit. Dude, you've been crushing lately. I don't know. 2024 has not been a particularly fantastic year. I had a couple fortunate years before then, and as a recreational tournament player. Let's at least like hint on them or whatever. You got a Venetian deep stack tournament. You got second, I believe. Is that right, or did you get?
No, I won
fourth?
the damn
No,
thing.
that's what I meant.
It was
Which one?
we can go over the big scores. I don't mind.
No. I mean, at least I want to highlight some of the big successes or whatever, because like
in 2021, I finished. Fourth in that 1K double stack.
That's
at the
what
series,
I'm thinking of. Okay,
at the World
yeah,
Series. And so that was my biggest, still is my biggest career
like
score.
150K or something.
Yeah. It was awesome. I was pumped. I was thrilled. And then the next year I won an MSPT at Venetian.
Okay.
And so those have been my biggest career scores.
So like at any point with your broadcasting success and then your poker success during this time, were you ever just like, I don't need to talk about poker. I can just play poker.
No, only because I shouldn't say only because, but because like I really like the broadcasting part of it, like really like it. So I just wouldn't want to quit. Like if I won the main this year, I still wouldn't quit the poker broadcasting side of it. I'd be perhaps a little bit more selective in the gigs, but I just love that so much. I love playing too, but I could never like erase the broadcasting side of things in order to just play. I like the balance of it all.
That's a great answer. I like that.
Yeah, and it's truthful. Like it's honest. It's genuine. I don't know if I could cut it as a full-time tournament player. Also, that probably weighs in to your thought process.
I bet you could. But either way, we can divert from that. But like, so at what point during the Poker Go experience did you kind of get like a main role or a starring role? Because like, I felt like it was fairly early on,
That's a
where
good
like
question.
it was like. It turned very quickly to you and Brent, and it was just like you guys. Like, I mean, not for the super high roller bowl, like not so much, but like every other like cash game or like smaller stuff. Like
It's a good question. I think to fast forward through it, after that World Series, Brent and I got asked to do a show called Friday Night Poker, which I know you were on and you remember.
You guys got to bring that back. By
We
the
do.
way.
It was on.
It's one of your better shows. I promise.
Facebook Live.
That's right. Stadium.
Stadium.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it would really work on YouTube now,
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
With that chat interaction. Anyway, great show. We worked with Amanda, now Negranu, formerly Amanda Leatherman. So we became good friends with Daniel, and we got to work on the break desk. They were trying a studio segment for Poker Masters. And from there, it's just like to your point, we got more and more gigs. So instead of just doing the break desk, the pregame show, Brent and I would get to do 2 events at the US Poker Open or at the Poker Masters, one of the PGT 10K events to kick off the series, which was a huge opportunity. Friday Night Poker unfortunately went away. And then I think the 2 biggest moments in my career, number one, 2020, summer of 2020, where everybody's at home, and I bust day one of whatever first World Series of Poker event they had online, and Phil Hellmuth makes a deep run. And I know that nobody in the United States, save for Nevada or New Jersey, nobody around the world could pull up Phil Hellmuth's table at the World Series of Poker. So I'm like, why don't I Twitch stream it to people? And that just kind of took off and perhaps, moved me up a level as far as, it's kind of to your point earlier, like just going for it, taking the initiative. Maybe nobody watches, but maybe a bunch of people do. And then it was like every night it became a routine. We'd have like featured table coverage. Negreanu would call in on occasion. We would just follow like the main names.
I was on one of those. I was getting hammered, and I got second in some tournament that I think you and it could have been you and David Tuckman maybe.
Yeah, because Tuckman would call the final tables.
Yeah.
So like I would do, and Tuckman was hired by like World Series or Poker Go, whoever did it. Yeah. But I would do like just Twitch streaming, featured table coverage. Like I'd have 4 tables up. I'd be bouncing around. Okay, Chris Moorman is now in a big pot over here. Here's Kristen Foxen. She's battling Justin Young over here in a big hand. And it just like, I'd have a glass or 3 or 4 of wine, and it would just like the people would come in. Nobody's doing anything during that time. So it was that, and then it was also in 2021. For the World Series. And back in 2019, I started doing sideline reporting for the preliminary events. I had asked Dan if I could do it, because they didn't have anybody, they weren't planning on doing sidelines. So I said, I'll take, very little money, and just because I want to do it so badly. Then in 2021, I was doing it for the preliminary events, and Kara Scott, could not come out to the main that year. So Dan said, you do it. I'd done it in 2020, because Kara couldn't come, and then Maria couldn't come. So they probably asked 14 other people to do it. They all said
the best
no.
of a bad
and
situation.
I'm in, baby.
Yeah.
And
They're
I'm
like,
in
I'll
there.
do it for free.
And
Come on.
That was when that was the last year on ESPN. It was kind of like that weird main event, the crossover online and live main event. So I was there holding the ESPN mic. It was awesome. Dan asked me to do it the next year for like the real deal. We're starting day one. We had the big production crew. We're on CBS Sports, and I think that was, to get back to your question, like probably the biggest jump that I made in my career. Because once you work on the World Series of Poker main event, that's the absolute dream. That's as good as it gets. And it took some, luck, fortune, whatever you want to call it. I mean, Kara's the best to ever do it, and I'll stick to that point from here until the end of time. So just her not being able to come kind of opened the door for me to try to attack that job differently.
You say attack, was it like a Nancy Kerrigan thing? Where
It was a full-on attack.
you
a lot of
found
people
her
are saying
knee
I
and-
attacked Kara, but
That's what I
that's
thought
not true. She just couldn't come.
No, he attacked just every player that he interviewed, right? Because
That didn't take off until 2023.
Oh,
At first I thought
2023.
we were really rolling in 21 and 22, like talking to the players,
Yeah.
and then they turned on me.
I feel like you've been fucking poker players over for decades, but it's only been a couple years. That's it, huh?
right.
It
It might just feel like a long time.
It's just like, maybe it's recency bias. I'm not really sure,
I think just in the way you meant to phrase it is that poker players have used me as an excuse for busting tournaments.
There's a chance
for
of
just
that.
a couple years now.
But
How about that?
I think poker players well enough as being one that it's never your fault.
Yeah, right.
It's Robin Williams and Matt Damon. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So
Jeff
it's got to be
interviewed
someone's
me,
fault.
And then I busted him. Okay, what was the hand? Well, he interviewed
That's
me
not worried
before.
about that. You convinced me to 6-bet the ace 4 offsuit.
I was on break, and then I went out. I don't know what happened. It was just Jeff. Oh, God. So, speaking of which, how has that weighed on you over the years? Do you...
The first bit?
Yeah.
It's a good question because I think you always want a role. I don't really want to say a gimmick, but something that defines you, that's getting you more notice, that's getting you more camera time. I mean, in the 2023 main event, they were making graphics and putting full screens up, and it was this huge deal, and they would keep the camera crew on a guy who I just interviewed for 10 minutes, just hoping that guy would bust right after, because it would add to that storyline. So you kind of want it for the recognition and the notoriety of it all selfishly. Like,
Yeah.
of course I want more camera time at the World Series of Poker main event. Eventually, though, it turns into, you know, somebody coming up to me and they're like, yeah, 3 weeks ago I talked to you, and then I got it in Ace King versus Queens, and I busted in 146th at the South Point Nightly. I'm like, all right, you know, I don't really care
I don't want
too
credit
much
for that
about
one.
Yeah,
That one doesn't help me.
Right, like I want to really torture people like Sean Deeb,
Yeah.
but for, you know, for any random poker player, I don't really care that much. So as long as you're creative when pursuing the bit, which I know you guys are, and then that's fine with me. But it maybe gets a little old when every elimination is blamed on you.
That's true. I it just occurred to me, like, Brent is very tall. Like, I would
Yeah.
love to have him like dressed as like the Grim Reaper with like a sickle or whatever.
Yeah.
And every time you like interview someone, he just stands behind him.
That
just, like,
would be good. See, that's-
standing there for like maybe like 15 minutes or whatever, and then move on.
That's
till the next whatever.
that's a creative
Just
part of the
waiting.
bit. I think though that I interviewed enough people who had success this year that it's kind of broken. But we'll see. We'll see next year.
We don't remember those.
We'll see. I mean, it didn't work out great for me when you interviewed me, but like that's fine.
Yeah,
it was one time. It was one
yeah.
time.
And you're a history of the man. I mean, you do great normally, but the year I interviewed you, you do terribly. Right, that's what it
Yeah, it
is.
had nothing to do with my playing style or anything like that.
Right.
You did catch me at a very happy moment though. I got it in Kings versus Ace Queen or whatever, but like I had like literally one out left or whatever to like, you know, hit the river or whatever, and I hit the one out.
got it.
And
Oh,
like
and that's
and,
when-
and like literally like 5 minutes later, it was like, oh, we heard you hit a one outer, and like you were like,
Oh,
like,
okay.
This was like
Yeah.
2023, I think. 2022.
Was it when you were wearing the badge? Because I remember talking to you about
It
that.
might, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, it was.
Okay.
It was.
Yeah, so 23.
So either way, I mean, you got me close to the money that year. That was nice.
Yeah. I love the Max Payne part. Like, really lead you on. Interview you day 4 on the bubble, and then you bust. That's the dream.
All right. To double Grim Reaper outfits, I guess. Spirit Halloween,
Yeah.
here we come for adults and children. We're going to get both outfits.
All right, let's talk about future Jeff a little bit. Like, I want to go down both avenues here, like both poker and broadcasting or whatever. But like, let's go broadcasting first. Like, what else do you want to get into, or are you like kind of, I don't want to say content, but like, do you want to do the same things and just grow it, or do you want to get into new stuff?
It's probably more along the lines of the former. I mean, my favorite job is sideline reporter at the World Series of Poker main event. I don't see any other job that could top that. So I really just want to focus on that and get better, and then I want to grow, you know, stuff that we already have, like No Gamble, No Future, like
Which is great, guys.
Thank
Tune
you,
in.
thank
It is
you,
great.
thank you. These guys are staples. You guys.
It's
become-
expensive, but it's
Yeah,
great.
expensive
For me,
for
it's
art.
expensive.
Yeah. For Justin, sometimes it's very profitable.
Yeah, until you see the next ones come out. No spoiler alerts.
No spoilers. I'd like to like turn the PGT into something. Brent and I get to call Super High Roller Bowl this year, which has been a goal of
that's
mine,
cool.
so that's
Yeah.
cool. Now, let the record show, I want Nick and Ali to always do it from here until the end. We're not available. That's why we're doing it. That's why I'm very happy to do it. So I'll take it. And yeah, I just want to try to get better and better in the poker broadcasting world. I would really like to commentate one of the Triton series. I think they do a fantastic job, and so that's kind of on my bucket list. And I think I'm going to be able to check that off by the end of the year. We'll see, but I think I'm going to be able to do a stop.
Like you and Rast
for
or something
them.
like going.
Me and whoever they'll put me
Okay.
with. I'll do
take
it.
anything.
I'll take anything at this point. Yeah. So I'd really like to do that. That's the one thing that's kind of remaining for me in the poker broadcasting world. But I feel like really fortunate, lucky, appreciating all the opportunities. I just get to go to work and either talk about poker or play poker. It's fantastic.
And I'm going to ask Brent this question as well. We're going to interview him in a couple weeks. But at what point do you drop the dead weight and try to find a new co-host?
Oh, it's an excellent question. I'll give you a no comment.
Okay.
It is.
I can't wait to hear Brent's response.
It's so, working with Brent is just such a blast. I mean, how long have you known Brent, would you say?
It's probably 18 years now.
Okay. I'm curious. Give me an honest answer. In the last 18 years, when have you seen him in a bad mood? Is there one? Can you think of one?
The only time I can think of it is when he's down to his last dollar playing video poker.
Okay, well, yeah. That's
it.
fair. Yeah.
That's literally every other moment is
So
He'll playfully commiserate with you if you're in a bad mood, but he's really just trying to bring you back up.
he's a perfect cheerleader friend. He is.
Really is.
He is an amazing person.
And that's how he approaches work. So I get to go to work every day. Most of the days are with him, and like he's just in an awesome mood. I'm just in an awesome mood, and we just have an absolute blast. So it's the perfect broadcast partnership, in my opinion. And
Yeah, you guys have great chemistry on there.
Okay,
it does.
awesome.
It does.
Really
It does.
We'll see how Brent answers the question. But
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
It's like, he's awful. I hate going to work. What a diva. I hate going to work with him. All that stuff. I am the diva of the two in comparison to Brent.
Well, I mean, like everyone's a diva compared to Brent.
Right. I asked for a bottle of water, and that's more than Brent has ever asked for,
All right. Well, you've been in poker for a while now, and you have busted plenty of people out of tournaments.
Yes, I have.
But you must have like a shining moment, not necessarily busting someone out, but something like a cool broadcast moment, poker related,
Yeah,
that
for sure.
that stands out to you.
The one that I always point to, and I have this in mind, just like I had that Popovich question in mind when you asked about that. It's unquestionably the 2021 World Series of Poker main event. I just, this was my first year as sideline reporter, which was main career goal. So again, I'm very nervous going into it, and I'm sitting in the production meeting before our very first day of coverage, and Dan says, okay, we're going to lead off the show with Jeff interviewing Doyle on the main stage. And then he just kept going. He's said that, okay, Lon and Norman, you're going to do this. And I'm like, I have to start the whole broadcast, our whole coverage. We're back first time in 2 years at the main. This is big time. And I have to interview Doyle on the featured table stage. This is terrifying and amazing at the same time. So I'm standing off stage. I'm so nervous. And Brent comes by and we talk about him. I'm nervous, and he says something like, "This is what you do." And I'm like, okay, yeah, that kind
Brent's
of
the best.
yeah,
Yeah,
relax me
it's
a little
fucking
bit.
good, yeah.
And so I walk up and I interview Doyle, and he was fantastic. I was fortunate enough to talk to him a couple times throughout his career, and sometimes he just didn't want to give you that much of an answer, and sometimes he was great, and he was great with me every time in that main event. So that moment will always stand out to me, being able to interview Doyle in one of his final years there, and that was just incredible. And that's the way it started for me. So again, I just use the word incredible, and I always think about that when asked something like that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that
is
is
nice.
It was
Touching.
great, touching. The moment that I'll most certainly remember forever.
All right. Well, are you going to play any more poker tournaments? I know I got a little siedtracked back into the broadcast.
No, I appreciate that. I'm glad you pulled that story out of him. But yeah, so poker wise, is there any more? I don't want to say aspirations, but whatever you have a PGT event, you're maybe a 5K, I'll blast it, or a 10K or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I always look at work first, see what's open on the schedule, and then really try to attack poker tournaments there. So I have aspirations to get better, of course, and every poker player's dream is to win a bracelet, and I'd love to do that. But I really just want to be invested in the game and enjoy playing tournaments as much as I do now, which I really enjoy it. And maybe it helps that I do the broadcasting and I'm not playing 24/7. But when I get to go play a poker tournament or poker tournament series, travel somewhere and play, I'm fully invested in it and enjoying almost every minute, not every minute because there's some rough moments, but I just want to play as much as I can, and I want to play some of to your points, the premier events that I can play. So the 10K WPT World Championship, the World Series main, which I played this year for the first time since pre-COVID, since I'd started working it. I tried to play and do broadcasting at the same time. Do a full World Series of Poker schedule when I can, when it's open, in addition to whatever my work schedule is like. Play some WPT mains, play an EPT one day. So I'm in it.
All right. So you have a laundry list of stuff you still want to I wouldn't say accomplish, but at least like give yourself the opportunity to accomplish. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's probably a good way to put it. Give myself the opportunity to accomplish. Nothing like super specific, but like if it's a big tournament and I'm available, I want to play it.
That's
that,
great.
that kind of thing.
That's great, man. I think that's a good list of stuff to check off for sure.
It's kind of romantic, honestly. Like it is nice. Like you're a very accomplished poker player, but you also have a real job, and I don't mean to put it in quotations like it's not a real job.
No,
but like,
I get what you're saying.
But like you have a rare opportunity to kind of like dip your toe in both waters, and
good point.
I think people on both ends of that are kind of jealous of you, in all honesty. Like, you know, having the freedom to like, you know, play poker tournaments, and people on the poker side like having the security, the comfortability to like have an income coming in or whatever, and doing something you love, which is, I mean, it comes through your eyes how much you love like doing this stuff.
And
which is great. Like,
thank you.
I don't think any broadcaster is good unless like you have that feeling of like,
I really don't think you can fake it.
Yeah,
and
exactly
so
right.
to your point, I get to be on the outside looking in, and then also get to be on the inside as well, without a lot of that pressure that I'm sure full-time poker players just naturally will feel. You guys have never felt pressure, but other than you two,
We're definitely not jaded
either. Right. So it's great. I keep using the word fortunate, and maybe I overuse it even, but like I just appreciate this entire career because I can have such a unique perspective on it all, and I think that really helps me take like you said, like a romantic view of the game and see it from that kind of light. Which
is what poker needs, honestly. Like,
I think more of that would be good.
I mean, I can't imagine you would ever complain about a bad beat. You're not going to tank for 5 minutes on the river just to fuck over your opponent. That's just not you. Like, you know,
none of that stuff.
I mean, not like Joe Chung when he who was it? Who did he get? Oh, he got Coleman.
Now that was legendary. I was trying to think, like, would I do that to, like, Brent, for example? In a 400.
That's one
like,
of the
that
only people you could do it
to. Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I think I would.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. but Brent would see it coming. That's the problem.
But would I do it to Brent in the main? Because that was in the 50K. I mean, those guys, of course, play a couple
50K.
more. But I think I would.
But these guys didn't really know each other either.
Well,
Joe is like, we're just kind of. This is how I shake hands.
Yeah,
big slow roll.
Like, would you like to be friends? By the way, quads.
All right. Well, before we sign off, is there anything you want to promote? Where can people follow Jeff Platt on the interwebs?
I mean, this fits for all of us. Is episodes of No Gamble, No Future are all new on Poker Go every Wednesday. They're also on Vice TV, and they're also on True TV. I was just scrolling through the guide in Houston, Texas. True TV, No Gamble, No Future. Cool. We also have Super High Roller Bowl 9, which takes place in Cyprus. Brent and I will be doing the broadcasting from here on Poker Go's channels. We have our PGT events. We have the Celebrity Poker Tour. We have a lot going on, I would say. So I would just like to push everybody towards everything.
I agree.
No matter what, go watch everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, no matter what your bankroll is, come out and play. If you can't afford to play, come to watch stuff, because like it's highly entertaining, honestly, across the board. It really is.
Thank you guys for having me and for the opportunity here. I love what you guys are doing. You guys are a blast in the poker world. I think this is very good.
Stop it.
All the Table One content is I think really good for the poker world. That's why Brent wanted to showcase really y'all's game on No Gamble, No Future, because you guys know by now we're looking to have some fun on the show. We don't care about the poker, the strategy. We aren't going to get any strategy from you two anyway. So we're gonna bring you guys in, and we're just gonna have a blast, and you guys are gonna have fun. Art might not have as much fun.
I'll have fun. I'll just have less money when we're done.
Right. So it's been great getting to know you guys and having y'all on the show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you guys. Always a blast.
That's the pod.
Me and my buddy, we make it all of this money. Yeah, I know it's rude to be bragging. They never catching us slacking. Me and my buddy, we working hard for this money. Whoa, you know I've been in my bag. Buddy, I got it like that. Yeah, y'all better stop. Me and my boy gon' climb to the top.